Greetings and welcome to the Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over classification for Kill Team again. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video if you found it useful and helpful. Remember, I've got Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, and a link at Element Games, and a link at Discord code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But let's get on with today's video. So I've been meaning to talk about this for a while because there's been some updates, but with Games Workshop showing the pre-orders for this week for Kill Team, they've kind of, changed how classification has worked. So going over classification as whole, if you're playing at Games Workshop events and some other events, you've got like this classified system for Kill Team. So classified kill teams are effectively kill teams that are legal for play at Games Workshop events, as well as other events that are following the classification system. Now, this is an optional system. TOs don't have to follow it, and if your team falls out of classification, it doesn't mean they're not going to get any balance updates or they become illegal to play. It just means you can't use them in classified format. So if you look at the app, it actually groups which kill teams are going to rotate, because, before it was going to happen at the start of a new season. So when with the new season 2 mode coming up, when this season drops, what the original plan was that the year 1 classified teams, the Declassified teams, or in the app as they're called, the Octarius season kill teams, those would all no longer be legal at classified events, so Games Workshop events, but they would still receive balance updates and would still be for sale. When I was at the Games Workshop press briefings, they were saying for Kill Team that classified teams would still be for sale under Kill Team, and then when the new edition drops, so like in 3 years' time, basically those teams would be removed from the Kill Team range and then be put onto the Warhammer 40,000 range where appropriate, and they would no longer receive updates. But when they become off the classified system, they'll still be playable, they'll still get rules and updates, and they'll still be on the app. They just won't be usable at their events and any event using the classified system. However, when we had the latest balanced data slate in the accompanying article, they seem to hint that Games Workshop have actually changed the timings of the classification system. So these Octarius season teams were originally intended to drop off in September. That was the original plan. That's how it was communicated to us. But it looks like Games Workshop has changed it as per the wording in the Balanced Data Slate article. So now the season officially ends at the end of the World Championships of Warhammer in November. So it means now the classification system will kick in after the World Championships of Warhammer. Now, this seems to be a very recent change, because if you look at the latest article for pre-orders, they have shown that the novitiates and commandos are now declassified and are now for sale in Warhammer 40,000. This seems to be not communicated from either the design team to the people on the community team, because remember, the Warhammer articles are actually written at least, I believe, 6 to 12 weeks in advance. So they're written quite a far in ahead. So it looks like they probably weren't told fully about this change. And to be fair, Games Workshop hasn't really communicated clearly that they have extended the classified season. So now it ends after Worlds, because they just dropped it at the end of a Balanced Data Slate article and then refused to elaborate further. And then speaking to certain people, apparently that is the intention, and they thought they were being quite clear, but they haven't been. So if you're watching Games Workshop, please clear this up, because it's very unclear. So from what we can infer from Games Workshop, heavily implying instead of, confirming stuff, that these classified systems will now kick in at the end of every World Championships of Warhammer. So when it comes to 2026, at the end of 2026, all the teams from the Gallodark season will no longer be legal at Games Workshop events, and so on and so forth. So it's now a bit confusing, because before it was supposed to be when the new box drops. So originally when Tomb World comes out, that's when Classified was supposed to be kicked in. But now it's going to be at the end of the World Championships of Warhammer, which does give people a bit more time until the third, when we drop into a new edition, but it's just going to be a very confusing ride. So what happens to teams that no longer are classified? So we did get kind of a hint of this with Deathcore of Krieg. So when their box was re-released for 40k, it lost the Kill Team Specialist sprue. And we were kind of all thought that's what would happen when a kill team drops off the classified system, drops off of the kill team range and goes into the Warhammer 40,000 range, that they would lose their kill team upgrade sprue and they would just be normal Warhammer 40,000 operatives. But it turns out, at least with novitiates and commandos, they still keep all their kill team upgrades because they're usable in 40k. Now, I don't think this is a blanket thing that all bespoke teams or even teams with upgrade kits that go from kill team to Warhammer 40,000 are going to maintain their upgrade sprue. So it's just going to be like on a case-by-case basis. This would also be really useful if Games Workshop clarified this, because when we had the press briefings, they were saying like these kits would just be sold under 40k instead of kill team when they're no longer legal. But when they were telling us this, they actually like implied that these kill teams would still be on sale for kill team until the new edition, but they've clearly changed stuff. So now once these teams drop off the classified list, they no longer are on sale under the kill team branding. Now it's not as bad as you think, so it is a bit rough for deathcore players, because if you buy the Warhammer 40,000 box, it has none of the specialists. But if they continue this trend where the kill team boxes just move from kill team to 40k and they keep their upgrade sprues or their kill team dedicated sprues, this is actually pretty good. And I'll tell you why, because these boxes should be cheaper. And that's because you're not going to get these card tokens. Because the annoying thing I had when kill team jumped into the new edition, because boxes were bundled with these new tokens, they went up in price. So it's usually about like, I think around £5, some like £3 to £5 a box. So it should mean, hopefully, these kits going off of the kill team range to the Warhammer 40,000 range should be cheaper because they don't come with the additional card. Now this is me being hopeful, and it could be like the cynical way where they just stay the same, so you're actually paying the same price for less, but they should be cheaper, hopefully. But unfortunately, this does mean, I think if it's the issue is, it's not even if it's fully bespoke, if it's an upgrade sprue, because Deathcore were a fully bespoke team for kill team, but they lost their upgrade sprue, whereas Commandos and Novitiates were, as bespoke teams, kept their sprues. Now there's a number of teams from the Octera season that aren't on sale in the store. So for example, Legionary, Phobos Strike Team, and I believe Blooded have all, and Pathfinders have all disappeared from the store, but you can still get Corsairs. They're like out of stock, so they're probably like going soon. And then you never could buy the White Dwarf teams. You could just buy them separately anyway. So I think it's generally, if they're a bespoke team, they're going to keep their upgrade sprues. I'm not sure about the kits that were just upgrade sprues. For example, Legionary and Phobos. I'm not sure if they're going to keep those specialist sprues. Legionary probably will, hopefully, but Phobos, I could see it being unlikely. So unfortunately, when it comes to this transition, it's just going to be a case-by-case basis. But my best advice is, if you want these kill teams and you want them in your collection, buy them now. They will still be playable at non-classified events and they'll still get rules updates. But if you just want the models, buy them now. That's the safest way to know for sure until, we see what happens with more teams moving from the kill team range to the Warhammer 40,000 range. Now, when a kill team goes from classified to declassified, clarifying once again, it doesn't mean it's unplayable. This is just kind of what people have assumed. It won't be legal at Games Workshop events. And I think the only events that have committed to using classification so far are just WTC and Nova, but Nova is at the end of the season. So it doesn't really matter too much for Nova, and the same for WTC. So you won't really see any other tournaments using it, I think. I know LVO has said they're just going to not use it unless you can't buy those teams. So for example, the White Dwarf teams and I believe, Galapox and Starstriders, who you can't really buy anyway, apart from Starstriders from 40k. But for the most common events, they are still allowing declassified kill teams. So for example, my events are always going to be declassified. So, they're always going to allow any sort of kill team. As long as they have rules and are updated on the app, they're legal for play. The only thing is you might go to certain golden ticket events that will follow the classified system. But generally, I think everyone's not going to use it because the only events I can see using the classified system will be very big golden ticket events. And even then, a lot of them haven't really committed to it yet. Like, probably need to see if Adepticon uses the classified system. They might, but it's just if you're going to a Games Workshop event, obviously they'll use the classified system. But generally, you know, non-independent events, not directly with Games Workshop, probably won't use the classified system. But if you're worried, just talk to your TO. I'm pretty sure I've been chatting to TOs because, you know, I'm a TO myself. And generally, we've all kind of agreed there's no real point using the classified system. We'll find if people, even if we're doing golden ticket events, if players want to play, you know, if they want to earn golden tickets, they're probably going to self-comp themselves anyway. And we want as many people to go to our events as possible and continue growing the scene. So we don't see the need to. So if you're worried about your events no longer allowing you to play these kill teams, that's not going to happen unless you only play at Games Workshop events. So that's something you need to check out yourself, I'm afraid. But it's only really a problem if you decide to only play at Games Workshop events. Now, as for rules updates, once again, when I was at these press briefings for Kill Team, Games Workshop were very adamant saying that classified kill teams that become declassified, or these yassified teams, these year one classified teams, once they go off the classification list and get declassified, they're still going to get balance updates. They're not going to be like completely ignored. Now, I know some people are like, oh no, they're just going to be like completely ignored. I think it'll be more so as as long as they're not like broken or like not massively underperforming. So for example, if they're sitting at example like a 40% win rate, but are still doing decently and they're not like overperforming, I don't think these declassified teams will see any more balance updates. But it only becomes a problem if they become like really badly underperforming in the stats or really overperforming. So basically, if they become an extreme, I don't think they're going to be completely ignored, but they'll have less focus, because you do have to keep in mind, for example, in the next season will be season 3. So if they're still balancing these teams, it gives them about, I think, nearly 60 teams to balance, maybe 65. So they'll probably like, you know, they won't be focusing on them as attentively as other kill teams, but they will still get addressed. So you don't need to worry about them being completely ignored. So coupled with like events still using them, they'll still be legal and for play. Like the biggest example is Galapox. Galapox have been not for sale for this entire edition of Kill Team. Like they've just been gone, but they still have had a ton of balance updates regularly and consistent balance updates. Even Hunterclade have had a lot of balance updates as well. You know, we've had like even Void Dancer Troop have been changed. Legionary have had several changes. Pathfinders have been buffed. Like Novitiates have had changes. So have Warp Coven. Like the only team that hasn't changed at all is Blooded, but that's because Blooded is like perfectly balanced. So I don't think people need to doom and gloom as much as they already are. I think they're like, at least when it comes to Kill Team is kind of a more heavily independent driven than you get with other game systems. And there's no real incentive to use the classified system. So yeah, if you're worried about your teams no longer getting updates once they're declassified, you don't need to worry about that. Now, they will no longer be usable when the new edition drops, but that still gives you 2 more years of play. So it's not like they're immediately going, just means they're no longer usable at Games Workshop events. Now, for the classification system as a whole, I know a lot of people don't like it. And the thing is, it's kind of a necessary evil. From one point, it helps with stock lists, because like stock listers, because otherwise they could end up with Kill Team, because we get so many releases, Kill Team could just like take up a store. But also it means we don't have so many teams that play at once, because otherwise you have to remember, when compared to Warhammer 40,000 to Kill Team, every Kill Team release is effectively an army, like every single Kill Team. Whereas with Warhammer 40,000, you can add units to armies without, you know, making new factions. So our like 40k has like, I don't know, 20 factions. Kill Team has nearly 50. I think it's probably even more than 50 now, which is a problem. And look, I completely get with people who are very unhappy, especially if they've jumped into the new edition and have started with a year 1 classified Octarius team. But I still think 6 years with a Kill Team is very generous. But it is bad if you've only had that, let's say you bought an Octarius season team at the end of last edition or at the start of this edition and you weren't really aware of the classified system. That's completely fair, because for you it does feel like a wasted purchase, because even if you're playing competitively and you're playing at declassified events, it does suck if you want to go to the, like you get a golden ticket and go to Worlds, you can't use that team. Completely understandable. Like Games Workshop should be more upfront and clear about the declassified system. I feel like when they talked about it last year, they didn't touch it at all up until like just now, which is not great. You know, it is in the app, but you have to find it. It's not like openly telling you. And yeah, you know, I do get people are being upset because they go like, oh, at 40k I can use everything I want, even though 40k has had a lot of units removed as well. And I'm not saying, you know, that's a great thing. But if you're still playing like, you know, casually and narratively, these things shouldn't be too much of an issue for yourself because, you know, the rules are always available for free online and you will be able to download them before they're removed. And even if like, you know, next edition in 2027 massively shakes things up, I'm sure people will be able to tweak those teams, or they may even get re-released for Kill Team, you know, when that time comes. So I know it's a very divisive subject. I personally am for it, but I completely get people's gripes. So I just wanted to cover it to make people aware that like I get where they come from, because obviously, you know, especially if you're buying multiple kill teams, or even if you just buy one kill team, you want it to last forever. Like there's no real bad like reason for that. But it does when you've got more competitive events and game systems, this kind of rotation is inevitable. Like at least we're not as bad as CCGs, where it's like, for example, Magic, where rotation is very, very quick, or even in Warhammer Underworlds, where they haven't revealed yet, but their rotation is 2 years. So after 2 years, you have to change everything again. So 6 years, you know, 3 years competitively, and then 3 years outside of GW events, so 6 years in total, is I think it's a good time frame, but I still get when people are upset about it because it's not great to hear stuff you've bought is no longer usable, at least at Games Workshop events, or eventually playable whatsoever. So for the classified system overall, it now, according to Games Workshop, they need to fully confirm it, but the classified system and when a team becomes declassified will happen after the World Championships of Warhammer, which is every November, currently in Atlanta. So the classified system will officially kick in for this edition of Kill Team at the middle of November after the World Championships of Warhammer. What this will mean, if you're running an Octarius season team, it will no longer be legal at Games Workshop events and events using the classified system. But as I've covered numerous times, like my own events and numerous other events will not be following the classified system. So there will be a large number of events where you can still play these teams. The only events that are really going to use the classified system are probably like very big golden ticket events. So the best thing is always just to check with the TO and your local scene, because if you will ever like talk about it, that's the best way to, you know, make sure everyone's feelings are heard and understand what people's preferences are. When a team becomes declassified, so they will still be receiving balance updates and they'll still be on the Kill Team app, but they are now going to move from from the Kill Team range to the Warhammer 40,000 range. And when they move to the Warhammer 40,000 range, they may lose their Kill Team specialist sprue, but they should hopefully become cheaper because they lose the tokens in the box. So they're actually cheaper to buy, which should be a benefit as long as they keep all their specialists, unless Games Workshop just keeps the price the same, which in that case, that sucks. Now, I did forget to cover for that section, some teams may lose operatives. For example, I could see when Blades of Cain, the Striking Scorpions, eventually go to the Warhammer 40,000 range, they'll probably go from 10 operatives to 5. But if you're really worried and you really want a team that's going to be declassified soon, either this year or next year, I would advise to buy the kits now. That's the safest option until we see what happens when more teams become declassified. And then teams are only removed from the app and are no longer playable for the edition when the next edition drops. So that means when we go into 2027 with Kill Team 4.0, all the Octarius, Gallodark and Beta Decima season teams will no longer be playable for Kill Team, but everything released for this season will go on the classified system. So they'll have they'll either go out in like 2028, 2029 or 2030. So you have, if you've jumped onto this edition and you've bought Kill Teams from the Hivestorm season, you still have 6 years, well 5 years, well just over 5 years. So you still have a long time to play with the Kill Teams. So hopefully this kind of helps clarify the classification system, you know, those Yassified teams. So it would really help if Games Workshop fully clarified it, because it's still a bit up in the air. And as I said, we haven't had a full update like up until last year. I'll link the articles that Games Workshop said everything in the episode description. So like Games Workshop really need to clear stuff, like clear it up. But I wouldn't worry as much as I've seen people have at the moment. It's while it does suck when a team goes from classified to declassified, it will still be playable at non-GW events. It will still be updated in the app and you can still use it. You'll still be able to buy it. It will go to Warhammer 40,000, but we aren't sure what happens to the specialists. So there is still some hope, and most events aren't using the classified system. So you don't need to worry too much. But hopefully it helps clarify everything. There's still tons of confusion, but it's partly due to, once again, Games Workshop just not clarifying stuff and their own miscommunication, because you can clearly see, as in the latest pre-order article, they were assuming classification would kick in now. They weren't aware it's extended until the end of the World Championships of Warhammer. So until that's all clarified up, hopefully this makes it all clear for everyone watching. But that's pretty much it for me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video, if you found it useful and helpful. Let me know what you think of the classified system and if, that's helped clear things up for you. Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, and a affiliate code on games, and a affiliate and discount code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. I'm just going to quickly shout my patrons. So for my adders for the crew, I have Tom, the Houston Toad, Supercow, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Marshall, Lucas, Graham, Fangzu, Draken, Dan, Dada Goldens, Chris, Alex, Amorphium, and Alexis. So thank you so much for all your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, just a quick video. I actually meant to do this, as I said, ages ago. It's just finally Games Workshop re-release some of the teams. I'm sure they're just going to slowly re-release teams, maybe with kill team releases for Warhammer 40,000, or like when those armies get updates on quiet weeks. So it should happen like over the next month, hopefully, or two. But yeah, it's just weird. I'm currently still trying to paint my custom Patriarch for Nova, because when this video goes up, if it goes up on the Tuesday, I fly out on Wednesday. So I don't have much time. But I'm back. I have a lot of videos. There's a lot of stuff coming. I would keep my eyes peeled for Saturday if you're watching the video this week. But remember, no matter what happens to your Yassified kill teams when they get declassified, you always have a chance to win, as long as you can roll a crit.